Welcome on back to Skippers. Today we have 4 must-draft outfielders for your fantasy baseball teams. We're going to keep on grinding on the road to 30,000 subscribers. Do not forget to join the Discord, and let's get into the players. First must-draft outfielder is going to be Taylor Ward of the Angels. He has an ADP of 127. Last season, he hit 281, 23 home runs, 65 runs batted in with 5 stolen bases and an 833 OPS. We had a nice little breakout in Taylor Ward's 5th Major League Baseball season, but it was interrupted by a nagging hamstring injury that cut into his ability to be a fantasy asset all season. Although with some of these injuries, he still managed a career best 137 weighted runs created plus and tapped into power we hadn't previously seen before at the major league level. We can kind of split Taylor Ward's season into 3 parts and see where some things went wrong. From April 16th to May 20th, he had 131 plate appearances where he slashed 370, 481, 713 with 9 home runs. He had a 17.6% walk rate and a 19.8% strikeout rate. On May 20th, he left with a shoulder and neck injury, and that's where we see the second part of the season where he started to struggle. Between May 26th and July 31st, in 196 plate appearances, he only slashed 217, 296, 314 with 4 home runs. He walked at a 9.2% rate and struck out at a 27.6% rate. And finally, as the clock hit August, we finally see the turn and a great end to the season. So between August 1st and October 5th, in 237 plate appearances, he slashed 288, 346, 481 with 10 home runs, walked at an 8% rate, and only struck out at a 17% rate. You look into the percentile rankings, and Taylor Ward's look really good. He's red all over in his StatCast page. Max exit velocity, 86th percentile, 66th hard hit percentage. But you look at the expected weighted on base average, that is in the 92nd percentile. Expected batting average, 82nd, and then expected slug in the 89th with an 86th percentile barrel percentage and an 82nd percentile walk rate. One thing that kind of helped him out last season was his ability to elevate the baseball. He had an average launch angle on fastballs of 14 degrees while hitting 300 off of them, and was no slouch against breaking pitches either. Ward ran a career best walk rate and ran a batting average on balls in play that was only the 3rd best of his 5-year career, and it really helps when you're hitting in Angel Stadium, which surprisingly to me was the 5th best park factor to hit in for right-handed hitters over the last 3 seasons. I'm excited to see if this step was real for Taylor Ward. I think it was, and I'm going to be betting on him, and I'm going to take him outside the top 125 every time I can get him. The second must-draft outfielder is going to be Kyle Schwarber of the Phillies. He has an ADP of 44. Last year, 218 average, 46 home runs, 94 runs batted in, 10 stolen bases, and an 827 OPS. The average should be the only thing on the surface that turns you off from drafting Kyle Schwarber, as he is an elite fantasy asset. Although Schwarber hit 218, his expected batting average was 19 points higher at 237. And if Schwarber was able to stay healthy last year, if he can do it again this year, and we get 155 games out of him again, he can very well lead the National Leagues in home runs for the 2nd straight season. I also think that Schwarber's going to have no problem upping his average, as he ran a super low batting average on balls in play at only 240, well below his career average. And I think a shift band should help, as he pulled the ball nearly 45% of the times last season. Schwarber's batted ball numbers are absolutely off the charts, as he hits the ball just as hard as anyone in the league. And as well, he gets to do it in a hitter-friendly ballpark. Schwarber ranks over the 96th percentile in average exit velocity, max exit velocity, hard hit percentage, expected weighted on base average, expected slug, and barrel percentage, and even mixes in a 93rd percentile walk rate for good measure. He's an absolute must-draft in leagues that would count on-base percentage as well. Nice little wrinkle is that Schwarber even stole 10 bases last season, ranking him 43rd in the league in that category, and is absolutely no slouch in that department. Although he did hit leadoff for most of last season, the addition of Trey Turner should be able to help his fantasy production, I would think. You put Trey Turner in the leadoff spot, you either hit him 2 or 3. Again, Bryce Harper's out of the lineup. I think it should help him in the RBI department. I think Kyle Schwarber is an elite fantasy asset, and I will be drafting him everywhere when I can. Third must-draft outfielder for me is going to be Chris Bryant of the Rockies, of an ADP of 122. Last year, short season for him. He did hit 306 with 5 home runs, 14 RBIs. Didn't steal a base, but still had an 851 OPS. This is the outfielder I'm going to bet on for a bounce back in 2023. Early indications in spring training would also suggest that Chris Bryant is finally healthy and would have a big season with fairly low expectations. In the short time that Kris Bryant was healthy last season, he was able to run a 376 on base percentage and that 851 OPS along with a batting average on balls in play at 338. The interesting thing for me is that Kris Bryant's power didn't even show up at Coors Field. In home games, Bryant hit 323, didn't have a home run, but on road games in 40 less at-bats, he hit 279 with all 5 of his home runs coming on the road. He had the lowest launch angle of his career, and he should be in an awesome spot to bounce back as you get to play half of your games at Coors Field, which is obviously the best park to hit in all of baseball. Although, again, it was a small sample size, he was able to drop his strikeout rate to only 14.9%, which is a positive sign. I think the Coors effect is going to show up for Kris Bryant this season, and we could get 20 to 25 home runs, even if the projections aren't going to say that. Think the power output will be there this season. And even if it's not going to be 25, 30 home runs, if we get 17 to 22, we'd be happy. But he's going to be a solid contributor in the average and on-base percentage categories at least. Before we get into the last player, I need the Red Sox fans to listen up. Sports betting is coming to Massachusetts on March 10th, but if you act quick enough, you can get up to $200 in bonus bets. If you sign up before Friday, you'll have an extra $200 to wager on MLB futures and opening day games. If you're in a legal sports betting state already, you can get a $1,000 first bet offer upon registration at BetMGM. For our last player, we are going to go to the Red Sox and travel into the depths of the unknown with Masataka Yoshida at an ADP of 178. Last year in Japan, he hit 336 with 21 home runs, 89 runs batted in, 4 stolen bases, and 1,000 OPS. Masataka Yoshida makes his way over from Japan as a 29-year-old outfielder that has shown elite contact skills and the ability not to chase pitches. This is pretty evident when you have 82 walks last season to only 40 strikeouts. With none of the batted ball data from StatCast to show, I think anyways, these skills are going to translate to the major league level, and the preseason projections have said that. Most of the projections have Yoshida as a 300 average guy with around 20 home runs, 75 plus runs batted in, and a weighted runs created plus of around 140. Fantasy managers aren't drafting guys like Yoshida and Senga early because they are huge question marks, but I think we're going to get him at a nice discount here. And as someone going into their age 29 season, I don't think he's going to change the profile that we've seen overseas. I would be shocked if there are 177 better fantasy players this season. The Red Sox are going to give him the opportunity to play absolutely every single day. He should hit near top of the lineup. And if you're worried about the skill set, make sure you turn into the Japanese games in the World Baseball Classic to see him play. If we see the glimpses of guys like, say, Suzuki had last season, a guy I think is a must-draft again this year, I think it's going to be a no-brainer that Masataka Yoshida will be a great fantasy asset this season. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. Let me know what you have to say about these 4 must-draft outfielders. Who are you guys drafting in the outfield this season? Do not forget to just subscribe, and I will see you guys tomorrow.